This is the Ecoflow Delta Pro 3 portable power station. It's a 4,096 watt battery capacity power station. It's essentially one of their bigger range power stations for home backup power. It's one of the biggest portable power stations from Ecoflow other than their Delta Ultra, that's 6,000 watts. This one is considered their home backup. It's got a 30 amp outlet, and so it can power up, an entire RV. It can actually back up your house, even AC units and things like that. So today I'm just gonna be giving you guys a complete breakdown of what you get with this thing, some of the features that it has, the outlets. I'll show you guys it in use, what can it actually power. I'll test the actual output, and then I'll just give you guys my overall thoughts in case you're thinking about getting it. All right, so before I run some tests and show you guys the outlets and things like that, I just want to walk around the power station so you guys can see the overall size of this thing. So right here on the top, as you can see, you do have two handles. This thing weighs over 100 pounds. It's about 114 pounds, so it is pretty heavy. I wouldn't recommend carrying it by yourself. It does have two handles though, so if you do have two people, it's pretty easy to carry it around. But going on the side here, you have this long section right here, and then on the back, you actually have two wheels, which is really nice. It makes it a lot more portable. Even though it weighs over 100 pounds, with the wheels, you can wheel it around pretty easily. And what's nice about that is over here on the front, you actually have this handle that pops out. So it has this little button right here, and it actually pops out this handle, and it's gonna make it really easy to carry this thing around. This can still fit in your car. It's pretty big, but it can still fit in your trunk and your car. And with these wheels, it still makes it quite a bit portable, which is what I like about this. A lot of people use it for traveling, for Sprinter vans, RVs, and things like that, just because of how portable it is, because you can actually take it out and wheel it around. It's pretty easy to move around. But going over here on the front side, you have some different outlets, and you have a really big screen, which is nice. You can see everything. To turn it on, you just want to hold the power button for about 3 seconds. Once you turn it on once, then you can just click it and you're good to go. And on the screen, just like the other Ecoflow power stations, you got your battery level percentage, how long it'll last. You have your input and your output. And so when you plug things in, these numbers will all adjust. But it is really nice how big the screen is, so it's super easy to see. Over here, you do have two USB-C outlets. They're both 100 watt USB-Cs, and then you have two fast charging USB-As, which are nice, if you did want to charge your phone or things like that, charge your laptop, you could do that with these pretty easily. And then going down here, you have your different outlets. One thing that's super nice about this power station is you do have 120 volt and 240 volt split phase power. And so you can power with 240 volts or 120 volts. As you can see right here, you have four 120 volt outlets right here. So this is gonna be kind of like your general power station, like the Delta 2, Delta 2 Max, things like that have, where you're gonna power your basic items. And then over here, you have two 240 volt outlets. And you have that outlet right here where you can plug in your dryer and things like that as well. If you wanna turn these on, all you do is you just click these buttons right here. So if you want to turn on the 120 volt power, you click this on, and then you can use all these four outlets. And as you can see, a little light turns on. And when you click this button, then you can actually use the 240 volt. As you can see, you can only use one at a time, so you can't use both at the same time. So if you want to use the 240 volt power, you have to use this. And then if you want to use the 120 volt, you have to use this, and this will turn off. So that's just one thing to note. Now with all these outlets, you do have a max AC output up to 4,000 watts, and it can surge, or X boost, what Ecoflow calls it, up to 6,000 watts, which is pretty amazing. That is a lot of power. That's going to be able to power essentially all the basic items in your house. Definitely refrigerators, TVs, stuff like that for a long period of time, but also AC units, power tools, things like that. And basically, an entire Sprinter van, entire RV, even your house, depending on what you're powering as well. And then going over here on the side, you have this little port, and it does have a cover, which is nice, and you can slide this over. And you have some other ports right here that you can turn on by clicking this button if you want. And these are 12 volt ports right here. And then you also have a 12 volt 30 amp max port right here. And then if you close it up and you come over here to the other side, this is what's really cool about this power station is you actually have an RV 30 amp plug right here. And so this could actually power an entire RV, which is pretty amazing. I've seen some people power this, even two AC units at the same time running with this thing, just because of the output that it has. And it does have the RV plug right here, so you could just plug your RV directly into here, and then all the power will just be coming from this, which is pretty awesome. And something else that's actually really cool about this power station is that it's actually expandable as well. I'll show you guys those with the ports in the back, but this can actually expand from 4,096 watts all the way up to 48 kilowatts as well, which is pretty amazing. So if you did want to start with this power station and then later on, you figured out that you needed more power, to power your device and things like that, you could always expand this, even higher to even have more power. And when you do expand it, you can actually get it up to 12,000 watts of maximum output. So instead of 4,000 watts of output continuously, you can get it up to 12,000 watts, you know, when you expand it, which is also pretty amazing. And it just allows you to power a lot of different things, or just power the things you already have just for a lot longer. And so going along with that expandability, on the back here, we have our different expander ports. It does have these nice covers, which is nice to keep them, you know, covered up and safe. Over here, you have 2 extra battery ports. You can just open these up and slide them in like this so they're out of the way, which is really nice. They're not just flapping around. And here's where you can plug in those extra batteries so you can get that expandability and make this a bigger power station. And then right here, you actually have your AC power in out port. And so here is where you can actually connect this to the Ecoflow wall panel, and you can actually hook this up to your house. And what's really cool about this is you can plug this right into the Ecoflow wall panel of your house, or just a compatible panel, you know, wall panel into your home. And so if you did have a power outage, you would hardly be able to notice it, because this power station would turn on and then your whole house would be running off of this power station, which is pretty awesome because of that. And so that's a really cool feature that a lot of their other power stations just don't have. And that's what's really nice about this big power station, is that it's able to run, you know, essentially your entire house by being plugged into that wall panel. And then up here, you also have your different charging ports as well. So you have your AC charging port right here. You can adjust between fast charging or just regular charging. It recommends just to do regular charging just because it's better for the battery. But if we needed this thing to charge up faster, you could turn on that fast charge mode and actually charge this up a little bit faster. And then right next to that, you do have 2 solar inputs, which is really nice because you can plug 2 different solar panels at the same time. However, one thing to note is that one of them is a higher voltage solar input. And so if you do have, you know, bigger solar panels, you're going to want to plug it into this one. This one is lower voltage, and so it's only going to be able to handle up to 60 volts on this solar panel, whereas this one's going to be able to handle up to 150 volts. So with that 2,600 watts, you get 1,600 watts of input on the higher voltage one, and then you get 1,000 watts of input on the lower voltage one. And so in total, you get 2,600 watts of solar input. However, you want to put your bigger solar panels on this one just because it has higher voltage and it's going to be able to get that higher input. But what's really cool about this power station is you can actually charge up with solar and the AC output at the same time, or you can even use one of Ecoflow's solar generators, and you can get up to 7,000 watts of input total when using multiple charging methods. And you can actually charge this from 0 to 80% battery in about 40 minutes, which is pretty insane for a power station this big. You know, if you did run out of battery in 40 minutes, you could already have this thing at 80% and be ready to use it again, which is very fast. However, that is on the fast charging mode, and so that's not going to be as good for your battery. But if you didn't need to charge it that fast, you know, it's still going to be able to charge very fast. And if you just use the AC outlet, you're still going to be able to charge it, you know, very fast, even on the normal mode. It's just not going to be like an hour. It's going to be a little bit longer than that. However, it's still very fast for how big this thing actually is. And you do get your charging cable right here. It's about a 5-foot long cable. This is the AC charging. And then if you get these solar panels, you should get the solar plug as well to plug it in through solar. But now that you guys can see around the power station, now we're going to run some tests, and I'll show you guys the actual output that this thing can have. All right, so now I just want to run some tests so you guys can see the actual output. We're going to try to get close to 4,000 watts so we can see if this can actually handle up to 4,000 watts. So I have a couple different things that produce a lot of heat. Just because to produce heat, you know, it uses a lot more power. I think this uses about 1,100 watts. This uses about the same, 1,000 watts, and then this uses about close to 1,000 as well. And so we're going to test all three. That should be about 3,000 watts. And then I might even plug in like a Delta 2 and charge it. To show you guys that it can actually daisy chain. It can actually charge another power station as well, but hopefully we can get up to that 4,000 watt range so I can show you guys. So first, I'll actually plug in this right here. So I have the waffle maker right here, and we'll see how many watts. So you're just going to want to turn on the AC power like this. Now that it's on, you can kind of hear that little click. Now you can start plugging this in, and immediately you can see the power go up. So the light just turned on up here. As you can see, it's on now. And we're using about 1,300 watts. So this all adjusted, and now you can see with this being plugged in 1,300 watts continuously at 73% battery, it's gonna be able to run it for about 2.1 hours. So it adjusts right when you plug something in. But now we'll plug in this panini maker as well, which also uses about 1,200 watts. So we should be up to that like 2,400 watt range, something like that. So let me plug this in as well. So this is actually really nice if you do have a camper van and stuff like that, because you can cook your food, you know, super easily with this. So now I have this plugged in. This is on as well. And I don't know if you guys can hear it as well. This thing is very quiet. I mean, it's not even really making a noise. And as you can see now, we're at 2,400 watts. So kind of close to 3,000. It's going to be able to run it for about an hour continuously. But both of them running, no problem at all. And then now I'll actually plug in this toaster as well. All right, so now I'm gonna put the toaster on. Boom, right here. The toaster's on. And now we're at 3,200 watts. And it's able to run it continuously. No problem at all. Pretty awesome. Now it went down to about 49 minutes. It's gonna be able to run all three. But pretty insane to see that this power station can do that. You know, it should be able to run these three no problem just because it's up to 4,000 watts. But we're almost close to 4,000 watts. It's able to run this continuously. So this would be pretty awesome, you know, if you were camping or, you know, you were in your RV, things like that. You need to run your AC unit. Fortunately, I don't have an AC unit to plug into this. But as you can see, it can run a lot of power right now. You know, most AC units don't use 3,000 watts. So it's going to be able to run a lot, which is pretty awesome. All right, but now that we saw that, I want to put it to the limit. So I'm actually going to charge the Delta 2. It's got a high AC input, and so it should output quite a bit of power. It's obviously going to lose a little bit of power just because it's transferring from inverter to inverter. But it's another cool thing is that you can actually, if you have a portable power station, you know, a smaller one of their smaller units, or just another brand of portable power station, you can actually charge your smaller power station with this big one, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to plug it in. I think they call that daisy chained. So you can actually daisy chain and you can power it up. So right now I actually have it in there. I just plugged it in, and we'll see how much output it's able to actually output to charge it. So right now it's at 24. It should kick in here in a second. Go a lot higher. There we go. So now it's going a lot higher. So here we go. It's showing 1,100 watts of output. And then in here it's showing about 970 watts of input. So it's losing a little bit when it goes into here, just because it's going to inverter. Actually, now it's at like 955 watts of output. Okay, so about 1,000. We're gonna try to get it to that 4,000 watt range. And so I'm gonna plug this back in right here as well. I'm gonna plug this one back in. Now it's at 2,200 watts, and now I'm going to plug this back in as well. And we're gonna see if we can get to that kind of 4,000 watt range. Boom. And let's see where we're at. All right, so now we're at 3,400 watts. So pretty close. I'm not able to get up to that 4,000 watts because I don't have devices that can do that. I think with the toaster, it's going to be over that. And so I could, you know, maybe do the surge protection. Let me see if I can plug in the toaster as well, and we'll see if we can get closer to that. But as you can see now, it's down to about 44 minutes with 60% battery. So with all these going at the same time, it's less than an hour, but that's pretty awesome that it's able to do all three at the same time. And I think that is very accurate then, that it's able to get up to that 4,000 watts of output, because we're really close right now and it's running these things no problem at all. All right, so I have everything plugged in now. We're using about 3,400 watts. Now I'm gonna turn on the toaster, and boom, look at that. 4,000 watts, it's able to run it, which is actually a little bit over the max AC output. So that's interesting to see. I think it's just because it's a little bit over, and with a toaster, you can actually lower the voltage a little bit and make it a little bit less hot. So maybe it's just able to handle that. But that's pretty cool to see. So it can definitely have, yeah, there we go. So now what it did is it actually lowered the voltage, I think, to keep it under that 4,000 watt range. So it's still running it. Or it might just be these are already hot enough, so now they're using less power. I'm not sure. But that was cool to see. It is able to handle 4,000 watts of output. So pretty cool. All right, then now I just want to do a charging test as well to see the actual AC input, just with the AC input here. So I'm going to plug it into the outlet right here, and I'm going to plug it in back here. So here's the AC outlet right here. It's got a little bit of a different prong than, you know, the Delta 2. This one's more square, but you just plug it in right here. You line it up, plug it in, boom. And I'm just curious to see how much output input this can actually have with AC input. So it's going to start off small. Now it's going up higher. Here we go. We're already like more than halfway charged too. So I don't know if it's giving less. But yeah, okay. So we got about 1,500 watts of AC input, just the AC. And it's saying it's going to be about 1.5 hours when it's at 65%. So I think that is pretty accurate. If you do charge with the AC outlet, it's going to go from 0 to 100. It's going to take about 3 or so hours to charge, just with the AC input. But like I said earlier, if you use, multiple charging things, the solar, and then, the smart generator as well from Ecoflow. You can actually charge it from 0 to 80% in about 40 minutes. So about an hour with all three of those. But if you're just using the AC outlet, it's going to take about 3-ish, maybe a little bit more hours to charge it from 0 to 100%, which is really fast as well for how big this power station is. So that's another cool test to see. You can get about 1,500 watts of input. If it was at 0%, it might be a little bit more as well. But I just want to show you guys at 65%, it's inputting about 1,500 watts of that AC input. All right, so I hope that I kind of help you see what this power station can do. As far as my overall thoughts and review on this thing, I think this thing is awesome. For a 4,000 watt power station, I feel like it is pretty compact still. It's got the wheels. It's easy to carry around with those wheels. And if you have two people, you can carry it around with the handles. And I think it just looks really cool too, in my opinion. Not that that really matters, for a portable power station. But I really like how it has that 30 amp plug, so you can plug an RV directly into it. I think that is pretty awesome. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you guys that here today just because I don't have an RV. But I think that's an awesome feature. And just overall, just for home backup, it's amazing. 4,000 watts of output and the ability to expand it so you can get more power and be able to power things for longer. I think it's pretty awesome. Obviously, this is a pretty high budget item, so that might be a downside for some people. But other than that, I feel like that's really the only downside to it. I feel like it works really well. It was able to run that 4,000 continuous output with no problem at all, which is pretty awesome to see. And I do think it has enough outlets and everything. I like that it has a 240 volt and 120 volt. Just because it gives you a lot of versatility and stuff like that. And so yeah, if you guys are looking for a power station in the kind of 4,000 watt battery capacity range, definitely recommend checking this out. It's a great option in my opinion.